One of the things I'd like to ask you about, we spoke briefly outside about it, was the women on the waterfront.
Yeah.
Could you tell us about who they were and how they came about and what they did?
Well, it came into being during our strike. When we were on strike, 500 men were sacked for refusing to cross the picket line, and we were on strike from 1995 to 1998, right? Then, obviously, I was shop steward amongst it all, and I got de-recognised at one time at C4 because, you know, to quote the, and I'm quite happy with it, to quote what the dock company said. He said, "But you argue over everything, Kevin." I said, "Well, that's my job, I'm a shop steward. I'm here to get the best for my people, because you want the best for yours, don't you? And I'll make sure that you don't get it." So I always had that. So needless to say, when we were sacked, okay, and the history's there to be seen, is that even though, if I said to somebody now, and you're all au fait with what took place when we were in dispute, and the people, certainly the people on Merseyside and further afield, were so helpful, and they encouraged us in every way. I mean, it wasn't just in Liverpool, it was worldwide. Like the fact that the dispute started in the September 95, in the November the 24th, I was in the office of the Maritime Union of Australia in Sydney talking to them about it. And I'm not being funny, I was, not because I like airports, not because I like flying or anything of that nature, is that we didn't have the personnel, we didn't have the people to go and do it for us. So, you know, I was out Sydney many times, New Zealand, Turkey, anyway, the fact remains, someone had to go out, and you had to know your business to go out there, because we were asking people like the Maritime Union of Australia to boycott ships, and you got to know what you're talking about. Same when we went to Israel, did the same there. You had to be fully au fait of what the dispute was all about, and then you had to gain support from them people, which we did. The Maritime, even to today, right, I still have a close affinity, even though I'm in the branch of the Maritime Union of Australia. I'm in the Sydney branch, right? But the fact that it was, then it was all right having demonstrations. We had picket lines every day, virtually, and we were supported on them picket lines. And people used to come from all over the world to come on the picket line, right? We've had lots of people, celebrities of all kinds there.
Who's the girl who she was always on the telly in the picket line? She was somebody's wife.
Well, this is where we're coming to,
Yeah.
the setting up of the women of the waterfront.
Yeah, because
there was Dory McNally, she became the chair of it.
that was it.
But there was all right, there was, even just, sorry John, I'm not interjecting there, just so, and then I might pick it up on this, is that we had to set something up. So, and there was, if I said to you, how many people do you think would organise that? There's 5 of us here, we only had about 2 more, and that was the body that was running our dispute. We actually co-opted people on who weren't even shop stewards, right? Because we knew they were good lads, right? And then we used to meet every morning after the picket line, right? And the picket line would be from 6 till about 9, depending, and we'd change it from day to day. It was well organised. I'd never been in the police station so often, but part of my job was to liaise with the police. And I don't mind saying it, you know, when they come to attack our people, the police, there was an obnoxious section, they've disbanded it now, called the OSD, the Operations Support Division. They were nothing but bullies. That's what they did. They used to come down and they'd start, man, women and children, they were attacking them, right? When our lads had to go to court in Sefton here, right? Then obviously we'd always go and support them. And we had our own solicitor as well, who used to be very helpful to us and represent us. So, but we had to think outside the box. Like going to Australia and travelling to the States was going outside the box. Because if you stay here, yeah, everyone in Merseyside would know it. Everyone maybe in the Northwest would know about it, but that's about all. So we've learned the lessons over the many years. No, you've got to get out there. You've got to educate people. You've got to let them know what's going on, and so on and so on. And that's what we tried to do. And we did it. And then coming to the women of the waterfront, I remember that, I'm just telling you what happened as a fact. We used to meet, as I said, every morning, and we'd discuss it. Jimmy Nolan used to chair it, and he'd go round and he'd say, right, anything, you know, so he'd ask if anything had happened or whatever the case may be. And I'd said to Mike Carden a day or two previously, Mick, we've got to get our act together here. We've got to learn. And these are my words, I can still remember them. I said, Mick, we've got to learn from the miners' strike. When you think about what the miners' wives and partners did when they had the soup kitchens, that sustained it and that kept it going. It kept the men happy and it kept the women happy because they were active. And we need to do something like that. I said, so what? He said, Kevin, that's a great idea. So when Jimmy came round to me, that was my suggestion. There was a little bit of, no, women, no. I said, hang on a minute. When love dries, when money dries up, love goes out the window. So you're better keeping them on side and see how we go. And that, if you like, is how it started. So on the Friday meeting, we had our mass meetings every Friday, and everyone could come. Anyone who was anybody. If Moira, you came along, I'd say to John, who's she? You know, just as an observation. And you go, oh, that's so-and-so's sister-in-law, or whatever. As long as everyone could be justified, there wasn't a problem. Anyway, we gave it out. I gave it out on the Friday meeting about coming together on the Wednesday, and we'll meet, and we'll sit and just come along and we'll have a chat about it. Anyway, long story short, the women came along. I asked the caretaker, Steve Murphy, to make a big urn of tea, which he did. I went into one of the rooms down below in the Union and Transport House, as it was then, and it was chocker. There was women, there was kids, there was everything there. I said, oh. So I had to bring the staff up. Whoa, just a minute, look. For those who don't know me, I introduced myself. I said, look, so you get used to this. You can't fight on an empty stomach. So have a cup of tea. I'm just going to see somebody and I'll be back in about 5 or 10 minutes. That was my excuse to get out the room. So they could all, whoa. You went to school with my sister. Your mother used to live next door. Oh, you should have. It was all that. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Right. And that was so lovely that it bonded immediately. So then the suggestion was, look, you know, we're going to set up a committee. I'm not going to run it, so you're clear. I'm going to be the meat and the sandwich. If I ask you to do something, you do it. If you want to do something, you come and see me. You want some money, you want to go somewhere. So that's the way it's going to work. You're going to select your own chair, secretary and treasurer. You're going to do all that. Your committee is your committee, right? Nothing to do with us, but I will be the one that you liaise with, and so we get something. And that's where Doreen McNally come into play. She was elected. I got Doreen involved. I was driving one day and I heard her on the radio, Roger Phillips show, talking. I thought, oh, that's clear, that's sensible, that's what we need. Someone talking about what it's like to be a mother, a wife, a partner, and your husband or loved one is on strike. We couldn't say it. It's all right saying, oh well, you know, no, but they could. What the hardship was all about, and it was hard. It was hard, and it was keeping people together and their sanity together. So in essence, you know, the women of the waterfront, again, we used to make sure they went on platforms We go, if I go and speak to you myself, if I go, I'd always take one of them with me, alright? And I used to say consistently about them, you've got more power, people take more notice of you than me. And they'd never had this before, because some of them didn't even know where their husbands and partners worked. They knew they worked on the docks, but they couldn't tell you anything about the ship, the pointy end to the blunt end. They didn't know anything like that. As long as the money was coming up, she's looking after the house, the kids and all that, that's all she was. I mean, I'm sure they all supported each other, but that built a bond, and it was unique. But it came from a simple situation of I examined, and I'm sure others did, of what the miners did. And that's where it came into being. So we used to say, I used to say to one of the women who used to come working with me, Sue Mitchell, and she won't mind me saying this, Sue was very emotional. She lives here somewhere, Crosby. And she used to get very emotional. After about 2 or 3 minutes, she'd start crying when she's addressing. And she used to say, Kevin, I'm not coming anymore. I said, if you don't come, I said, you're not coming with us. Like that. She was great. And she got better and better. I said, look, Sue, doesn't matter. You can never be wrong when you're speaking. You know why? Because I speak after you. And if you've made a mistake, I'll rectify it. If you haven't said something that you should have said, I will rectify it in that way. So you can't do nothing wrong. So don't ever think that you've got to be whatever you want to be. You're a woman. You've got three kids, I think she had. Still has, sorry. And they were marvellous. And that used to happen all the time. She used to just break down because she was so frustrated. And then I'd say, tell them about, what happened in the house. And she'd tell you about one of her boys coming home from school and asking questions, about, and she didn't have no money. And that's another aspect of it. We used to subsidise some of the families to keep them afloat.
Did they get dole or anything?
No. You were on strike. We got what you got, right? Was it an unofficial payment? Because you couldn't claim benefits. Even though we had welfare rights workers, Peter Clay and Co., they all used to help our people. Anyone, we'd get to know if there was anything, right? We'd make the appointment there and then. Peter, go and see him, see them. They'd feed it all back to us all the time. And because we said to them, there's no use trying to be martyrs struggling. We're all in this together. So let's help and stay with each other. And many times, and I've said it myself to the lads, stay in the house, don't come down. Yeah. Stay in the house. Because they were like that. Right? And that could come through their wives or their partners. Would tell someone in their group, they'd come to me, say, Kevin, Joe Bloggs, right? He's worried, what's the problem? Well, his mortgage and all that. Bang, we get the welfare rights right onto it. Immediately start doing all what has to be done to take the wolf away from the door. So it was ongoing all the time.
Were any kids ostracised in school because?
No, to be quite honest, they were glorified. I went and speak in a couple of schools about it, mainly sixth formers, to explain. And they say, we used to say to the kids, because the kids would be playing in the back of the hall in Transport House, while the mums would be at the meeting. Right? So we got them involved in everything. We got them involved with the Turkish and Kurdish community to let them understand. They'd never do any of that. We went to a camp in Aldershot, right? And my boys were with me, and we had a great time. But they'd never had naan bread and stuff like that. They'd never seen Turkish and Kurdish people, singing and dancing the way they do, right? Except when they came up from London and they'd come up to our demonstrations. So we know with the Daymar Centre in London, and I'm still in touch with them now, because they used to come up and they were made up that they'd lead the demonstration, and they'd be dancing and playing the sass and all things like that. It was just, so it was getting kids involved, that there's more to life than that in your own neighbourhood.
You never, like all those girls, you'd never have thought that they'd go, you know, they'd take off like that.
No.
Because that Doreen, I used to go out with a sister, and I knew her when she was like 18, 19. She wasn't like she was.
No.
You know, so it did change them all.
It changed in a way.
The attitude, didn't it?
If you listen to the way Doreen speaks,
Yeah.
you know, Doreen hasn't got a Scouse accent. I'm not saying she can't use it as a Scouse accent, but that was better still.
Yeah.
That we could get her across, you know what I mean? And she was articulate when she'd make the point about it. But we never lost sight of what it was all about. It was the struggle. And it doesn't matter, the personalities don't come into it. It's about doing what you have to do. You know, some people rose, some others just wilted on it. But nevertheless, we fought. And, you know, I say now, the women of the Waterfront, I still now, when I go to Australia and speak at the conferences there, at the Maritime Union, I consistently get asked, how are the women of the Waterfront doing? Right? Because when visitors come, I'd make a point of introducing them to, bring them to the meeting on a Wednesday and say, this is what it's all about. Yeah? These are the women that way. When we'd have picket lines, you know, and stuff, when we got into Seaford and all that, we had the priest from round here, Father Michael de Freitas. He was what a lovely man, right? We had all that. I mean, things you couldn't sit down and say, right, okay, this is what we're gonna. It didn't happen like that. It happened on impulse.